Well. It seems like if the hater asks for new subscribers, people will hit the subscribe button. So we're so close to 10,000, guys. Do it for me. Do it for you. Do it for the truth. Do it for the love. Do it for the world. And more importantly, do it for the children, all right? The people need the hater. The hater needs to keep growing. So do me a favor, real quick. Take a second and hit that subscribe button. Once we get to 10K, things are gonna go my way even more. Cuts this. So now, with that being said, let's get to today's video. This is gonna be a video that's long due. I mean, we've talked about it here and there. We've treaded the line here and there. But the reality is, we haven't really gotten around to like a full discussion of CM Punk and CM Punk's return. Even though CM Punk's return has been several years now. Like he's been back for several years. I mean, I don't even know at this point. What, like Survivor Series like 2 years ago, maybe? I don't even know. Wait. I mean, it's been several WrestleManias that he's been like around. I know in one of them he didn't compete, but like, he was there. So the point is, it's time to evaluate CM Punk's bullshit half-assed return, right? This has Nikki Bella written all over it, motherfucks. This is basically, in my personal opinion, a colossally failed return. Here's why, cucks. I'll put it to you this way. Number one, CM Punk is like a Nikki Bella, right? He is not this massive star in any capacity, right? He's presented by the WWE as someone that, like, wow, can you believe that CM Punk is back? But then he's not treated as such, right? He is somewhere above the pecking order, obviously, to like Drew McIntyre. I mean, that goes without saying, right? He's not like Drew McIntyre. He's not that kind of a return, but he's also not like a John Cena-esque return. He's not a return like, imagine the scenario that, like, I don't know, The Undertaker returned, right? Imagine if The Undertaker returned on a CM Punk basis, like not a full-time, but like a quasi full-time basis, right? People would lose their fucking minds. You know what I mean? It would be a big deal. But CM Punk, quite frankly, has never reached the height of The Undertaker, and he never will. So that's why he's a Nikki Bella, right? Nikki Bella coming back is not like Trish Stratus coming back. If Trish Stratus came back for like a real run, it would be a big deal, like it was when she came back a few years ago for like a relatively short run. Nikki Bella coming back, it's like that allure of her returning is already over. She's just another person in the roster now, right? As is CM Punk. So I know that CM Punk's aspirations were that he was going to be this massive big deal. And quite frankly, I think we all know that he absolutely is not. He absolutely is not. Nobody can tell me, like, as things stand now, that CM Punk is a big deal. He absolutely isn't, right? He's just another guy in the roster. He gets his pay-per-view matches. He seldom wrestles on free TV. And that's basically it. He's no different than like 95% of these motherfucks. He's no different than Cucky Rhodes, who also came back under a similar pretense, right? I mean, but Cucky Rhodes, like, he was still like youngish. He was like 35. I mean, not young, but like he's not starting his career. You know what I mean? Like, it's like 35 is very young, even in wrestling terms, to like get a push, right? So like, for example, Braun Breaker, like he's like in his 20s. If he gets a push in the next year, he's getting a really early push. Not early like Randy Orton, but early enough, right? Trick Williams is 31. If he comes to the main roster and he automatically gets like a main event push, that's still salvageable. Probably not what's going to happen, but it's still salvageable, right? But with CM Punk, he's like nearly 50 at this point, at least, and he looks it, motherfucks. He looks 50. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not. He looks great for his age. CM Punk doesn't look like an old, frail man, even though he obviously is. But that doesn't change the fact that his return, in my opinion, and I think my opinion in this one is barely an opinion. I think it's like almost a fact of life. The way that things stand, CM Punk is not like someone that's a big deal anymore, right? He no longer is someone that matters anymore, motherfucks. He is not someone that, quite frankly, moves the needle anymore, if he ever was that person. So as far as I'm concerned, this return has been a complete disaster, right? It is no different than any other return that we experienced in the past, right? Like, ask yourselves, if it weren't for the fact that people, for some reason that I will never be able to explain, have this weird affinity with CM Punk, mostly because he bitches and moans and he reminds them of themselves, because most wrestling fans are a bunch of fat complainers, But think about it this way, right? if you compare CM Punk's like return to Jinder Mahal's return, right? Why is CM Punk's return better? I know people are gonna pretend it is, but why is it better? Like, I would even argue that Jinder Mahal's return was better because it led to a WWE title run, as well as like a US title run and several other high-profile situations that he found himself in. You know? So that's a big deal. But CM Punk has come back, and quite frankly, like, if we're being honest, motherfucks, if we're being honest, he hasn't done much. Now, I will admit, I'm not going to sit here and be a complete hater on CM Punk. I will admit that CM Punk has had some pretty good feuds, right? Namely, in hindsight, the Drew McIntyre feud, just like when it was happening, I thought it was shit. But in hindsight, it felt like a big deal, right? Like, he could have had a worse feud than that, is basically what I'm saying. It wasn't a great feud, but it was an acceptable feud. You know what I mean? We're not going to sit here and pretend that, like, it was this amazing, epic feud, but it was a good enough feud. And I think with that being said, we need to be a little bit, like, cognizant of the fact that he did have that feud, and that, that did kind of get people excited for a little bit, right? But beyond that, and that's me being generous, motherfuckers. That's me pretending that this feud was bigger than it was and better than it was. But beyond that, what the fuck has he done? You know? I mean, he's bitched and moaned a few times, and then he got injured a few times, right? And that's it. That's literally it. He's done nothing else. It's almost unbelievable. It's like he had a feud with Drew McIntyre, and that's all he's done for the last 2 years. 2.5 years. I suspect. I need to Google that shit. So, I'm not exactly sure. Let's Google it, motherfuckers. When did CM Punk return to the WWE? Up in this bitch. I almost wrote up in this bitch. November 2023. Oh, okay. So it hasn't been that long. It's been like almost 2 years. But nevertheless, it's not like he's doing anything now. I mean, now he might finally win the world title, I guess. But he's been there for about 2 years, And nothing's happened. He's had one feud in 2 years. Like, when I say nothing's happened, I'm not trying to, like, shit on him. I'm not trying to be funny either. I know it's hilarious, but I'm not trying to be funny, right? The fact is that nothing has happened. You know what I mean? Like, name one other thing that he's done. He had the feud with Drew McIntyre, and that's literally it. He had, like, little, deviations here and there between the feud. Like, he was there, like, wrestling Seth Rollins, and that kind of culminated to a degree at WrestleMania. In this circle jerkery, he also helped Roman Reigns. Like, absolutely nothing came out of that. Like, him helping Roman Reigns, like, obviously they were planning for something else there. You know what I mean? I highly doubt that the plan for, like, the CM Punk joining the War Games match, I highly doubt that the original intention for that was to make it so that, CM Punk's favor always was Paul Heyman is going to manage him in one match, which is, like, one of the dumbest things, honestly, ever, right? So with that being said, it's like, what did he accomplish? He's done nothing, right? He set out to accomplish so much, but he has categorically failed at doing so. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone's going to be WWE champion. Not everyone's going to be a real main eventer, But it does beg the question of, like, what did we get out of this? You know what I mean? What did the wrestling fans get out of CM Punk coming back? In my personal opinion, they got absolutely nothing. Nothing good has happened from this, except for arguably the Drew McIntyre feud, which, again, we are viewing in a vacuum, meaning that we are pretending it's better than it is because WWE has been such shit these last few years. Like, I honestly believe that every single year it's getting worse and worse, And part of that has to go to CM Punk, right? He hasn't done anything. He hasn't moved the needle at all. He's not a big superstar. He does get a crowd reaction, but that's because the crowd at this point is just conditioned to give reactions, right? It's not an emotional reaction anymore, right? Maybe, like, when he first returned to AEW and that one fan started crying, I think that fan spoke for a lot of fans because a lot of fans were feeling that. But beyond that, I really don't see how, like, CM Punk coming back has done anything, It's almost like they didn't want to use him correctly. It reminds me, obviously, like I said, of Nikki Bella, but it also reminds me of how AEW utilized, or didn't utilize is a better way to put it, Sting when Sting came back, right? They put Sting in this weird-ass role as Darby Allin's manager, right? Where it's like, he had a few matches, I think he was undefeated, but it's like, it wasn't a big deal. It didn't feel like a big deal. Why didn't Sting just immediately go after the world title? I mean, all he has to do is beat Swerve Strickland or Adam Page. These guys are like cruiserweight nobodies. Sting would, like, murder these guys, even at this age. I mean, in his prime, like, forget about it. Like, Swerve Strickland is lasting 3 seconds against Sting in his prime. But even in 60, Sting is just like bigger and stronger, right? Someone in my comments said that like at the end of the day, without their shirts off, Goldberg still looks better than Gunther, right? It comes down to that. It's like he's just more presentable and more believable even at this age, right? CM Punk is not presentable or believable, but he never has been. His draw has always been something else. But that's something else. We're running out of that. We're running out of that juice, right? That's why I think they're putting him in this situation against Gunther, right? Because, you know, lo and behold, like Gunther's title reign, the first one was shit. This second one's even worse, if that were even possible. So I don't think Gunther's going to stick around with the belt for a long time. I think he's going to drop it to CM Punk, but, you know, they don't want, like, CM Punk to take it from Jey Uso. So, you know, they're having him take it from Gunther. But it just doesn't feel right, does it? It doesn't feel like CM Punk deserves it. It doesn't feel like he's earned it in this run. Now, again, I don't believe necessarily that wrestlers have to earn their fake titles. Of course not, you know what I mean? But I don't think CM Punk has done anything to kind of put himself in this position, both in like real life as well as in kayfabe, right? In kayfabe, he's lost basically every match. The only thing that he's done that's impressive is he beat Seth Rollins once on a random ass Raw, like in the winter. I remember because I was really cold doing that video. Hater outdoors in the winter, motherfuckers. And he won his feud against Drew McIntyre, which means less and less every month because Drew McIntyre is about to get his ass beat like by Jelly Roll in a few days, not even a few weeks. In a few days, we're going to sit here and discuss how Jelly Roll has humiliated Drew McIntyre. You see what I'm saying? These are just the facts of life. I don't make these rules, motherfucks. This is just how it is. And then that's from kayfabe. From the real life perspective, it's like he hasn't really done anything to step up his game, right? He has the same moves. He's equally shitty in the ring. You know, his promos are getting like more and more boring each week. I mean, I think personally, I think they've always been boring as hell, but sure as shit, they've been like, you know, more and more like boring as time goes on because it's like he says the same things, right? And then the question remains, right? If CM Punk does defeat Gunther, right, which obviously will not count for shit, right? We've established many times on this channel that the World Heavyweight title on Raw doesn't really count, right? It doesn't really count. It's as simple as that. It just doesn't, right? It's like, remember that one time when Kurt Angle was both Intercontinental and European champion, and he dubbed himself the first ever Euro-Continental champion, and then he said, except for D'Lo Brown, but everybody knows he doesn't count, right? He just completely like removed him from the equation. It's like, yeah, D'Lo Brown did it too, but nobody gives a fuck about D'Lo Brown. You know, that was great. I actually like D'Lo Brown a lot, but the point is you can just like say the same thing about CM Punk. Yeah, he main evented WrestleMania Night 1. Yeah, he might win the inferior world title, but let's be real. All of us know that neither of those things count, motherfuckers. This is just like when before he returned, he would say like, at WrestleMania, I think it's 29, the one that I went to. I'm not sure which one it was. I think it was the one that I went to. The one where like The Rock and Cena main evented. I think it was 29, right? In that one, it must have been. In that one, like the clear main event was John Cena and The Rock. Like the clear main event. That's one of the biggest main events on paper of all time, in my opinion. Because it's John Cena defeating The Rock for the world title. It's John Cena finishing his story with The Rock. You know? Like, that's one of the biggest main events of all time. And CM Punk's like, yeah, the real main event was me versus The Undertaker. It's like, no, it wasn't, bro. No, it wasn't. Like, if we're being 100%, if we're being totally honest, without offending any fans and without offending the great wrestler known as The Undertaker at that time, not a main eventer, motherfucks. Like, there were a few WrestleManias that he main evented, right? Against, like, Shawn Michaels. But that was only due to circumstance, right? He main evented that due to circumstance. It's Shawn Michaels' retirement match. The year before, when it wasn't Shawn Michaels' retirement match, it was just a mid-card match at WrestleMania. Nothing to be ashamed of. You know what I mean? Nothing to be ashamed of. But The Undertaker, like, in his last WrestleMania run, he was a WrestleMania attraction, and he was not a main eventer. Right? Meaning, he was never consistently in the main event, and he was never consistently a threat to win the world title. He didn't even try. Like, he didn't even show up at, like, Royal Rumbles and shit, you know? Now, if he had, maybe he would have won, but he didn't. So, there's that. CM Punk had just come off, like, a 450-day, whatever the fuck it was, 434-day title run, and in that, he main evented, like, a handful of times. Like, other people, like The Rock, Cena, The Awesome Truth, like, they main evented over him many times. You know what I mean? So it's like, he wasn't a main eventer either. Clearly, The Rock and Cena were the main event, right? But CM Punk gaslit himself. He was like, the real main event was me versus Taker. No, fam. You know that when you had dreams as a child to main event WrestleMania, you didn't dream to main event in a losing match, in a Paul Heyman centered triple threat match as to who likes Paul Heyman the most and who does he like back. You know that's not what you wanted. You want like a fucking, like a Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan WrestleMania moment. That's what you want. You want like at minimum, motherfucks, a Triple H Jericho. Not even that. Like honestly, WrestleMania main event moments are so far and few in between because nowadays there's just a lot of routine shit. Like for example, John Cena beating Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania is not like a WrestleMania worthy moment or match, or nobody dreamt of that shit. And maybe John Cena, I'd like to beat Shawn Michaels, but that's only because it's Shawn Michaels. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like for example, The Rock versus Cena at WrestleMania, that is a WrestleMania like worthy main event, right? The Rock versus Roman, if it were to happen, that would be a WrestleMania worthy main event. Hell, at this point, even Cucky versus Roman, right? That at least has the methodology of a WrestleMania main event, right? Where it's like the scrappy challenger who's never won anything of value in his life finally gets the big one by beating like a legendary wrestler, right? Like Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan situation, except for instead of like Hulk Hogan, we have Roman Reigns who is inferior, and instead of Ultimate Warrior, we have Cody Rhodes, who is like 100 times inferior compared to Ultimate Warrior, right? You see what I'm saying here? CM Punk is in that same category. He's in the like the B- category, right? Because if you put like Hulk Hogan, Rock, Stone Cold, these guys in the A+ category where they belong, then you gotta have like a B+ category. That's gonna be like your Edges, your Ortons, right? Like, we're gonna be honest. Orton is not on the same level as like The Rock or Stone Cold. Triple H, that would be like a B+ category or maybe an A-. Call it whatever you want, right? But it's not the S tier, right? Then under them, you have to have a few other people that aren't as impressive, right? Like if we're being honest, like for example, let's see, like I was gonna say Batista, but Batista did win a main event at WrestleMania that mattered. But you have your like B minuses. You got like your JBLs, you got like your like Eddie Guerrero's. If we're being honest, you know what I mean? I know everybody loves Eddie Guerrero, so do I, but let's be real. I mean, he was not on the level of Triple H. You know what I mean? Like he was never presented as like a consistent main event, right? So people like that. And then under those people, you necessarily have to have like the Daniel Bryans and the Kofi Kingstons of the world. And around there, maybe a little bit below them, is where CM Punk hovers, right? So he will be treated as a B- player forever because he is a B- like wrestler, right? He will be given the B- main event. He'll be given the B- world title. He'll be given the B- booking. He'll be given the B- victories. And he will be treated like the B- that he is. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to reiterate. A lot of great wrestlers have been B- wrestlers, right? Like I would say, for example, that Matt Hardy, who is a personal favorite of mine, is objectively a B- wrestler. This doesn't mean that Matt Hardy sucks. Matt Hardy doesn't suck at all. Matt Hardy rules ass. But he's a B- wrestler, Like, he's not a jobber. He's a very accomplished wrestler, but he's a B- in the eyes of the company, right? He's not like on the level of Booker T, right? Like, it's like if in their primes, Booker T and Matt Hardy wrestled 10 times, like Matt Hardy might win one by a roll-up if like Finley came and screwed Booker T over. But generally speaking, Booker T is going to win all those matches, right? Like that's kind of how it is with CM Punk, except he's a B- who sometimes gets treated like we have to pretend that he's an A-level wrestler, and he isn't, right? And it's ironic. The times that we have to pretend that he is, pretty much it comes down to like circumstantials, right? It comes down to like what the circumstance is. So CM Punk did not coincidentally come back when he came back. He came back after people like Cena were like on their way out. He came back after the Roman Reigns was effectively on his way out. Like he's not gonna be in the world title picture anymore. Like I don't see Roman Reigns being at Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? Like this is just how it is, Cugs. You know what I mean? Or if he is, he's going to get thrown out. It's not a big deal. So CM Punk came back at a time when it is now feasible for him to potentially main event WrestleMania. And even now, Cena comes back and pulls the rug up from under this bastard. You know what I'm saying? Cena and Cucky overtake this bitch. So what I'm getting at here is this, right? A lot of CM Punk fans, I think, are delusional and live in denial. The reality here is that CM Punk's return has been, in my opinion, catastrophic, right? Like, even if he beats Gunther, it doesn't count, right? And I'll finish with this. I'll go back to the comparison with Jinder Mahal. One of the Hater's very good friends is from India, right? And he's like an Americanized Indian or anything like that, but he's a proud Indian, right? and he was really happy when Jinder Mahal won because he wanted to be a wrestler, etc., etc. There's more to the story, right? And I was like, bro, like, I'm like, why are you tripping? I'm like, Great Khali was world champion, and my friend, who's also a big wrestling fan, he was like, bro, it's not the same, and you know it, right? The world heavyweight title, and that hurts me because my favorite wrestler of all time is Christian, and it's hard for me to accept that Christian was not a real world champion, and it's hard for me to accept that Booker T was not a WWE world champion for real, right? I mean, I personally still think it counts, like the old world heavyweight title, but there is some truth to what my friend was saying, right? The WWE title, even in pay-per-views where it's like Batista versus Triple H, main events WrestleMania for the big gold belt, it doesn't really matter. The real world title is the WWE title, the one that Hulk Hogan held, right? The one that Stone Cold held, the one that The Rock held. Nobody gives a shit about the belt that Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Gunther held. That sounds like the fucking Intercontinental title to me, you know? What's next, motherfuckers? We're gonna elevate the WWE Speed Championship to mean something because Andrade held it? I don't give a fuck. So, in summation, CM Punk's return is going to, at best, lead to him winning the inferior world title, and nobody cares, right? So, there you have it. I think anyone who's honest is going to agree that this return has been a complete abysmal disaster. You know, you can look at it however you want. You can say that up is down and down is up, but you know, the truth shall set you free. It's as simple as that, you know? So there you have it, cucks. Take that and do what you want with it, motherfucks. And with that being said, take care of yourselves and each other up in this bitch.